Good morning, everyone. It's Saturday, which means it's time for yet another salty Saturday morning. I am your host, Mr. Kadish. Get it right. Even Vader gets it right now. But we got an all hands on deck situation today, so we're going to kind of rush through the opening of this. But I want to welcome my fantastic panel of nerds. Matt Vader 74. How are you feeling, buddy?
I'm feeling much better this week, and I just got to say I want to thank Jillian in the chat really quick for giving me a membership to my own channel today. That was incredible. Thank you for your generosity. So yeah, man, let's do this. Let's go.
Yeah, and unfortunately, Brian from the Popcast couldn't be here. He took one look at the thumbnail and said, instead of talking about gay stuff, I'm just going to go out and be gay. So he's out there being gay, being queer.
Is there a parade somewhere? What?
There must be, because Brian is off being himself, frolicking.
Got his harness and his leather shorts on to go straight down the street. Okay, exactly. Gotcha.
So unfortunately, he's not going to be here, and I believe Tom is still asleep, so Tom won't be joining us either for Midnight's Edge. But instead, we've got someone who can cover for both of them. Culture Casino, how you doing, my friend?
I'm fantastic, and well, thank you. I feel like I should talk about beard care, and I should go frolic in the woods somewhere, and all of that. So, and I woke up today, so I'm not sleeping. So I feel like I can cover for both Brian and Tom.
You could do it. We were talking about beard care right before we went live.
It's true.
I get it.
You're also the topless streamer on YouTube, if I'm not mistaken.
Don't tell anybody. That is never happening again.
You even got Vader to go topless. So.
Yeah, I did. It was a moment in time, and I'm trying to forget it.
Mental block.
So am I.
Also, guys, we have Odin will be joining us a little bit late. He has a child he has to put to sleep first. But we also might be getting some guests in the form of Mexican Iron Man and WDWPro possibly. But before we get to that, I want to welcome for the first time to Salty Saturdays, George the Giant Slayer. Welcome, my friend. How you doing?
Thank you for having me on. Love your show. It's great to be here. I mean, I haven't met y'all before. I think I met you once when we were in Vegas for the FNT, but I hadn't met Vader, so it was great to meet you backstage. And Culture took me under his wing since I first started on YouTube. So love Culture. I think he needs just a staff now, and he can step in for Moses.
I'm working on it.
That's right.
I'm working on it.
Well, guys, the FNT crew, Geeks and Gamers, and Nerdrotic are planning on using the Salty Nerd Studio while they're out here for the meetup. So you'll be seeing the studio in a lot of use all over the place. And hopefully, George, since you're coming out for the meetup, you'll
I need
the studio and get to hang out.
Yeah, I need to use it. Jesus, I realized that because I'm going to be there till Sunday. Wow, Sunday, because I started live streaming, so now I'll be there Sunday. Wow. Okay.
I actually took some PTO days. So I'm going to be off Monday through Friday that whole week, so that's going to be super fun.
Sweet.
Yep. And George, if you need to use the studio to live stream on Sunday, just let us know.
Oh, thank you. I was just thinking about it. It's like I hadn't live streamed for 2 years, and so I started 7 weeks ago, and now it's changed. It's changed the way I think about YouTube. I'm enjoying the hell out of it. Mm-hmm. When you want to put a show together, and it didn't pop in my mind till just this second. Like, wait a minute, I'm going to be there till Sunday, and I have a live stream. Where am I going to do it?
Yep.
Cool.
We are opening up the studio to any YouTubers who are in town for the meetup who might want to do a live stream or stuff like that. But we've already got so many slots filled, so it'll fill up quick. Real quick, guys, we want to give everyone in the chat a big shout out. We got Penny, Jillian N, Mexican Iron Man, Nadia. We got Grand Blues, Wendigo, Cocho Dragon, Gary Banjo Sandwich Worthington, the Joker's Voice. We've got Anthony Marks. We've got Gavin Blackburn. We've got all types of people in here. And speaking of people, we have the Lord of the Shelves, the King of the Pineapple Pizza himself, Odin from O&B Reviews.
Yeah. Odin, you need a hat.
Why do I need a hat?
You're the only one without the hat. Oh, you're saying that we all have hats. Like, wait a minute. We're making a band here. What are you doing?
I'm sorry.
You didn't get the memo? What?
I'll grab one in a second. Okay.
I think Odin gave up being on time for Lent. Is that correct?
No, it's purely my
Wow.
son who was a little delayed in going down for his nap. So that's usually going to be the thing that determines whether I'm here on time or not.
That's cool. Well, we appreciate you showing up regularly anyway.
Thank
it's just not the same without you.
The dog just showed up, so we're good.
Let's say Willow's in the background, and she's, now she heard her name, so now she's like,
No.
"Oh, are you going to give me pets?" Yes. Hello.
Is that a beagle?
She's got such a weird mix. It's a German Shepherd. I think Beagle might be in the mix too, but she's a mutt.
Yeah, I can't get my beagle. My beagle, Snoopy. Obviously, Snoopy. I can't get him in the studio. No matter what I do, he sees the lights in the background, and it just I don't know what happened to him. I got him at 6 weeks old, but there's just big boxes and big objects he's terrified of. Someone comes to the door. Someone comes to the door though, and he just growls and holds his ground. He's like, "Yeah, I dare you to come in."
We have a mat on the outside that says, "Ring our doorbell and hear the songs of our people" from the dog.
All right, guys. Well, real quick, I want to get to some super chats because we got a lot of stuff to cover today. First of all, the Joker's voice for $10. Hail S&P. Question: even though Madam Web is from Sony, does it do even further damage for Marvel Studios? As far as LGBTQ stuff goes, should have stopped at marriage. Just saying. Hashtag keep talking. I do think that the Marvel brand continues to be devalued by this type of stuff. And that's been
Perfect.
yes.
Hello, fellow kids.
What's up, fellow YouTubers?
That is a fantastic ad.
That's nice. That's nice.
Just waiting for him
Shout
to
out to
spit
Critic List. It's the Critic List hat.
Awesome. So yeah, I do think that the failure and embarrassingly bad movie that is Madam Web does continue to devalue the Marvel brand. What does the rest of the panel think on that?
Agreed.
My one word review for the film was don't.
Yeah, Madam Web is just another manifesto for. It's funny enough, it's not woke. It's a manifesto for talentless hacks and box wine drinking beta males. Woke is just like the camouflage. It's a wretched film. I left 30 minutes into it. I'm like, I just can't take it. And, I mean, you're talking about a director, right? Who's had one feature film, and that's Madam Web.
Mm-hmm.
Please.
And she was supposed to direct Star Trek 4.
Oh, save us.
Dodged a bullet, but did we? Because did we get a good Star Trek film?
Well, I mean, we're never getting a fourth Star Trek film apparently.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
We're talking about
also,
we're talking about the ones with Pine, right?
Yep.
Mhm.
JJ verse. No.
JJ verse. Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Mexican Iron Man for $9.99. WDWPro channel is nuked by YouTube Death Star. Rebels throughout the galaxy are called to retweet at Team YouTube to get this fixed. Darth Lord Google must be defeated. In fact, we're going to open the show with this Mexican Iron Man because it's a very important thing that happened overnight. But first, we got to get through our housekeeping stuff before we can really dive into it. Want to give a huge shout out to Jillian N, who gifted 5 Salty Nerd Podcast membership. She is one of our top gifted membership ladies. Thank you so much, Jillian. You're always in the chat, always being so generous with those gifted memberships. Really appreciate it. And Eric Winberg gifted 1 Salty Nerd Podcast membership. Thank you so much, Eric Winberg. Every membership counts. Just remember, guys, that we have a whole host of members only content. It is if you check out our channel, we have a playlist for all the members content, so you can go back and watch some of the exclusives if you get the membership. But also, we do 2 members live streams every month, and we're going to have exclusive members only videos published throughout the week. In fact, we just published a members only video where Vader and Alex talked about sucking dick for a good 6 minutes.
What?
Hey, man, you said we weren't recording during that. All right, I'm mad at
That
you
shouldn't
now.
matter. Why are you talking about that at all?
Well, we were kind of doing a Scooby and Shaggy thing, you know. Ruh-roh.
Yes. So
What'd
if
you
you
do
want
for
access to
2
that,
Scooby snacks,
if you want access to that exclusive video, which is hilarious, by the way, be sure to sign up for our members only. And also, when you sign up as a YouTube membership, you get access to a special board on our Discord server. Instructions on how to link your Discord with your YouTube channel is in the description. And if you follow those instructions, basically, as soon as you get a YouTube membership, you get instant access to our Discord room for members. Just go to saltynerddiscord.com. That'll take you right to our invitation to join our Discord server. It is it is a cool place. So be sure to do that. Member. Yes, I saw that. First of all, member goal for this stream is 10 new members. We're already almost there, guys. We just need three more. Three more. And we want to welcome George the Giant Slayer to our membership area. I know as soon as I said Matt Vader was talking about sucking the D, we'd get tons of new memberships. Yeah. And George was the first one to sign up.
Yeah. I just have to see that so I can clip it and share it with everyone.
What happened to the "I'm not that kind of Greek" thing you usually say?
Oh no, this is about shaming him. It's not about
There's no shame. No shame. No, I don't judge, you
don't judge, yeah.
No, I do enough judging for everybody. So.
You're like a proctologist at a pride parade. I got it.
Yeah. I got my leather shorts in the closet back there. It's no big deal.
All right, guys. So
I'm meeting Brian right after we're done here.
Yes.
Well,
enough chit chat. We gotta get to the big story today, which is WDWPro has been demonetized.
Oh man.
Yes, everyone. In the dark of night, YouTube decided that WDWPro's channel, which was growing very fast, it was very popular. It was at the forefront of covering all the shenanigans that Disney has gotten up to. It now is no longer allowed to make money. And it is a very, very, shall we say, developing situation. I know that WDWPro is looking to protect his other channels right now, and he's kind of putting out a bunch of fires. Jonas is apparently hard at work trying to figure out what's going on over there. And the entire YouTube community has been offering their help and assistance on this stuff. But I just want to give you guys a little bit of context for YouTube and Google in general when it comes to basically screwing over small business. Okay, which is, if you got a popular YouTube channel, that is a business. You're basically a media company at that point. And WDWPro took his, memberships very seriously. He was giving great members content over there. But back when I was living in Hollywood, I don't know if you guys know that or not. I used to work in Hollywood. I was running a online marketing company, and 95% of my business was done through Google advertisements. It's now called Google Ads, but it used to be called, AdSense or something like that.
AdSense.
And one day, Google made a change to how they qualify the type of ads that you run on there. And I was spending like 6 figures a year advertising on Google. And overnight, they killed my business without any explanation. And I tried contacting my rep. I tried hiring a company to, get me back on there. But Google was just like, no, screw you. It's easier just to, deal with brand advertisers who don't care about ROI than it is to deal with you guys who, actually know what you're doing. So that basically killed my business, and that is what led me to move out here to Vegas and start doing the YouTube thing and all that good stuff. Now, I wish that Brian were on the stream. No offense, culture, but what happened last year is that Brian and Shane had a situation where their live stream channel, which was very successful, it was doing a lot of good coverage on Picard season 3. They got hit with the exact same violation that WDWPro got hit with, but they were kind of like third in line, because I remember that Geeks and Gamers got hit with demonetization, and Drunk 3PO also got hit with demonetization. But luckily, those guys were able to get that sorted out within the course of like a day, I think. But unfortunately for Brian and Shane, they got hit with their appeal got rejected, and so they had to wait 90 days to apply again to try to get remonetized, and it was just catastrophic for their channel. And this has happened to a lot of other smaller YouTubers as well. And what they're hit with is something called a duplicate content strike. right? Where basically YouTube has accused them of using duplicate content or reused content, and it is against their terms of service, essentially. Now, what this means is that it's not that they're reusing content on their channel necessarily. What it means is that there are other channels out there that have the same type of content that YouTube noticed on their channel. And what's very, very important to note about this is that what the YouTube algorithm has been programmed to look for, and it just goes through channels and it looks for violations and stuff like that, is that if you're using a piece of music on your channel, on all your videos essentially, or a vast majority of your videos, and it finds that piece of music on lots of other videos on lots of other channels, then they categorize that as duplicate content, even if you've legally licensed it.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. Ever since I started live streaming, I have a piece of music that I use for the intro, and I keep getting hit each live stream. And I've already submitted the license. I submit it, then a couple of days later, they're like, okay, no problem. Yeah. And it's the same thing. And I've written an email. I'm like, here is the license. It just keeps, it's the same.
Well, yeah, there are some different things about that where like you have rights management companies who will, even if you've licensed the music, they'll falsely flag you because they don't know that you licensed it. Mm-hmm. But then in terms of YouTube stuff, if that licensed music, even though you're legally allowed to use it, is on a number of other channels and a number of other videos on other channels, they see that as duplicate content, essentially. And so a lot of small YouTubers who unknowingly license music and put it on their videos get their entire channels demonetized after working really hard to get those monetization stats, simply because YouTube's algorithm does not take into account licensed music, right? They think that it's content that's pulled from other people's channels and is being reused. And this duplicate content penalty is meant to stop like scammers pumping out low quality content on YouTube by basically repurposing other people's hard work and republishing it on their own channels. But they haven't taken into account this licensing issue. And so I think that that's what WDWPro is running up against, which is basically his videos might have some licensed music on them, because WDWPro is extremely careful about his channel, right? Like he doesn't swear on it. He doesn't get political. He just does straight up news stuff, right? And but he has like the same kind of music on his intro and outro. And so if that's the case, then if he licensed that music, it could be a situation where basically YouTube has falsely flagged his stuff. Now, we have two new guests I'm going to add to the panel real quick. We got, I guess he woke up from his beauty sleep. We got Tom Connors Jr. from Midnight's Edge. How you doing, Tom?
Oh, I'm here. I just figured I had to hop in at least to try and comment on this part.
Yeah.
And also we have not a YouTuber, producer extraordinaire, Mexican Iron Man, who is front and center on the front lines of this issue.
Too many people.
Yeah, I know, right? Well, I'm making an exception for this because this is important.
I probably won't stay too long anyway. I got stuff I got to do, but
okay. Well, Tom, since before we get to Mike, since you're just hopping on, what's your take on this, and what do you recommend people do to help support WDW?
Yeah, just keep retweeting, liking, adding YouTube. Sadly, that's our best line of defense, because even channels like us that have like whatever you would consider a YouTube liaison, they're pretty much worthless. They are worthless. Yeah, they're absolutely 100% worthless.
You can't go to them and say, "Hey, I need your help here."
They are absolutely useless. If you're lucky to hear back from them within a couple of weeks, yeah. And then not only that, half the stuff they tell you does not help your channel. In fact, it does the opposite. So that being said, like this, look, I hope Matt's right that this is just some sort of misunderstanding through the algorithm of reused music and stuff, because I believe Pro does have some licensed music and whatnot, but he has said he has never been claimed for anything. He has never had a strike for anything. So to me, this feels like either hopefully just some random mistake, or to me, an isolated attack by you-know-who. And look, we've all had certain funky, funny things happen to us at certain points. I'm reminded of what you just brought up before with like when Geeks and Gamers and a few other people's had a bunch of demonetizations in a row. And then I go all the way back to Captain Marvel when we first had an issue with a company that was associated with Disney, because we got a copyright claim and struck and took down during a live stream where we're talking just like this. No music, no photos, no nothing. But Andre was reviewing Captain Marvel, and the moment he started turning negative on the movie, our whole thing got shut down by some firm in Astoria. The country, not out of the country, not like Astoria.
Oh, not like in
California.
wow.
Yeah, no, like some other country.
Wow.
And we found out it was some like law firm that had some ties with Disney. And after the next day, they're like, oops, our mistake. But it's like, well, that doesn't fix the fact that our entire stream got taken down in the middle of it, right? Like, what are we supposed to do about all that? Well, that was reinstated, but it still got cut off where we got cut off, right?
Yeah.
So, point being, we got lucky in that instance, but we've seen multiple patterns with this. And chances are, my guess is it's an isolated attack because they don't like what Pro has been reporting lately. That'd be my guess. That's just my hunch.
In this situation, I feel like it's important to point out: don't attribute to malice what you can easily attribute to stupidity.
Yes.
I believe that YouTube's algorithm, which just goes, so YouTube has an algorithm specifically to look at whether or not channels are complying with YouTube's terms of service. And so it's constantly out there just evaluating channels. And eventually, if it comes across enough channels that have the same music on their videos, they're going to look at, okay, which of these do we think, is violating the policy, and then they'll just blanketly demonetize them. It's written into the programming. And once you get a human to look at it, it's usually easy to kind of like get them to reinstate it if you have not changed anything on your channel since you got the strike. If you adjust anything, if you change it, if you delete any videos, if you do anything to the channel that could constitute you trying to like hide it or clean it up or like whatever, your initial appeal will automatically be rejected. So you need to be very careful in these early moments where you're trying to figure out, okay, what's happening? How can I fix it? Stuff like that. And speaking of which, I want to throw this to Mexican Iron Man to give us an update on what's going on with WDWPro and what we can do to help him fix this terrible situation.
Yeah, I got off the phone with Pro about a little more than an hour and a half ago. This all went down at 4 o'clock a.m. Central, 5 o'clock Eastern this morning. And yeah, this is a tragic scenario. I'm going to back up everything that you two fine gentlemen have said. Our best line of defense is to get on Twitter, get on X, and literally pummel the absolute hell out of Team YouTube. That is, while that is not a meritorious defense per se, because we obviously would like someone to do a manual review and we'd like for YouTube to do the right thing in the right way. That's not how this company works, exactly like Kadish lined out. And I'm with Tom. I was on that Midnight's Edge. I was there live watching it happen when that Marvel takedown happened. And whether it's the stupidity of YouTube or whether it's something more malicious and targeted, which does happen, what we've got to do is we've got to band together. So whether you're a fan or you're a small creator or big channel creator, like people on this panel, we all need to band together because this is something that can affect any one of us on any given day at any given time. This one hits particularly personally and hard because I was on the phone with Pro before he ever came to YouTube. Valiant and him were talking, and I feel like I helped talk Pro into coming on YouTube. And I was there with Jonas producing before Jonas was the producer, and I'm angry, I'm mad, I'm upset. I didn't plan to wake up like this. He's a very good friend. I'm as close to him as I am any of you on this panel, and all of you on this panel know I love each and every one of you and how much history we each have. So if you're watching this on the replay, watching this live, go to Twitter, go to X, take a second, and just reach at Team YouTube again. We've got to literally pummel them from all over the planet, every sector, and we've got to do it hard and fast, and it's got to be done today.
Also, guys, I want to be clear. Do not be adversarial when you're tagging Team YouTube. Just be supportive of Pro. Ask them to look into it. Don't be mean to them. But also, on top of that, if you know people on social media, especially Twitter, that are very active, reach out to them and ask them to use the hashtag. If you're in DM groups, alert the DM groups about that. We want to signal boost this thing, right? We want to get YouTube's attention and let them know that there is a huge audience out there that wants this taken care of immediately and addressed in a timely fashion. I don't know, Mike, do you know, because when this happened to the Popcast, notifications went out to all their memberships that their memberships have been terminated. Did WDWPro lose all of his members? Okay. I think his headset
batteries died.
Yeah.
Okay,
We still can't hear you, Mike. Still can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
All right, sorry about that. So, anyways, yeah. So that notification went out. All the memberships got frozen at 2:02 a.m.
That's a convenient time.
Yeah.
So that's the email that I got at 2:02 a.m. Very slim shady kind of crap. I mean, but it is. And I'm gonna Matt's right. The best thing to do is to say, "Hey, Team YouTube, please look into this." Or maybe if you're a member of a channel, you watch the content, say, "Hey, I've watched all the content on this channel. Please fix this." And leave it at that. Don't call anyone a-holes, or I might be an angry Mexican, but I am being a politely angry Mexican today. So
yeah, and it's important to note, guys, that if you were a member of WDWPro's channel, don't unsubscribe or anything just yet. If your membership is paused and we get this situation fixed, you'll be reinstated and all that stuff. So yeah, don't panic on this quite yet. So we hope that WDWPro gets his channel fixed, gets this situation resolved, and gets back to growing and holding Disney's feet to the fire, because they are an excellent channel, and I've never seen anyone so careful with their content in my life as Dubs is, where doesn't use foul language, doesn't use doesn't get political, any of that stuff. Like it's almost annoying how careful he is with his channel,
right?
And the idea that he got struck and someone like us is perfectly fine, where we're talking about sucking D at the beginning of the show, it just is crazy to me. Okay, so Tom, Mex, and Iron Man, you guys are free to hang out for the rest of the stream, but we're going to be moving on from this. But
I got a few more minutes, but the real reason I came on is because I thought maybe there was a chance I might get a little bit of that D action going on.
Hey, whoa!
I'm out. I gotta go. I gotta text Pro back. I'm gonna keep making phone calls, and I'm gonna go.
All right.
I'm not into it.
Sounds
Keep me
good.
posted, Mikey.
The one last thing I'll say on this is the thing that just annoys me the most with any of YouTube's rules is that there's no accountability for anybody that does this. So, like for instance, if YouTube makes a mistake, if the algorithm makes a mistake, there's no recompense. There's no making up for you just basically killed off his momentum in so many different ways. Like he's gonna have to pick back up almost from square one in a lot of ways as far as trying to rebuild that momentum. Any lost revenue, I don't believe there's any implication that YouTube ever makes up for any lost revenue there, because again, they say, well, it got flagged, and so that's not our fault. And if there's ever a company too, where a company is the one that's responsible for any of these things, and let's say they make a false claim, there's no way to get back at them. And that's what's so broken about YouTube's system, is that they allow for the giant powerful companies, corporations especially, to be able to do whatever the hell they want, to be able to play God, as it were, with different channels because of different things. And then if they do something wrong, nope, you can't go against them. But if you make one mistake, you're gone. And that's just, to me, is kind of a part of the YouTube culture that needs to really change.
Also, it's important to note that even if Pro gets this decision reversed, in YouTube's vast archive of data, his channel will always have a black mark on it because it got demonetized. It got flagged for demonetization, even if it was false,
even if it was a mistake.
And what that means, what that means is that all of his videos on that channel from this day forward are going to either be suppressed or shadow banned or throttled in some way, shape, or form. He's never going to get the reach that he did before that black mark was put on his channel.
So what does he need to do? Start over? Need to start a new channel? What?
I mean, it's the equivalent of being arrested, right? It's like you get arrested for something, and then you find out later on, I didn't actually do it, but guess what? You still got that arrest record.
Your resume says you got a felony.
Well, wait a minute. It doesn't clean it. If it was their mistake, it doesn't clean it. It doesn't wipe the slate clean. Oh, it's our fault. There's nothing here.
It's a data point, right?
Mhm.
So like if your channel gets demonetized, it's a black mark on your channel. It's there forever, as long as that channel is in existence.
But have you seen people who went through this experience and then turned around and then their channel took back off where they were at, like whether it's a month or a few months later, or is it always a shadow of its former self?
Well, I mean, like, obviously Geeks and Gamers and Drunk 3PO and their channels. I don't know if they got that
I don't think they
particular
got
strike, but they got demonetized, but they got it turned around like really quick. But whenever you get like that type of like blanket strike against YouTube's terms of service, it's always going to be on there, and YouTube's always going to make that a factor in your videos coming from that channel. So
it feels like they put you under a magnifying glass after that happens. Is that what I'm hearing?
Well, you're basically on double secret probation.
Gotcha.
Essentially. Yeah. Real quick before we move on, we got a super chat from Everything Woke About for $9.99, which is actually Jonas in disguise, the producer of the WDW show. Thanks for the support, guys. We're still trying to figure out how to pivot. So if there's anything we can do to help you guys out, Jonas and Dubs, just let us know. We are there for you. Guys, it's times like this that the community really shows, the YouTube community in our sphere really shows what they stand for. Like Vader, when our studio got broken into last year, the outpouring of support from everyone in our sphere was so overwhelming and helped us replace our equipment really quickly. And it was just really good stuff. So we are here for anyone who suffers from this.
We have a fantastic community and everybody in our sphere of influence. And I mean, I've never seen people that are more supportive. It's crazy. Yes.
Yeah, but everyone always has to be aware that when you base your business around either Google or YouTube, because they're one and the same, you run the risk of stuff like this happening. Like you could do everything by the book, and YouTube will put out a retroactive policy change. So the minute they change it, like you were okay before, but the minute that they do something new, you're not grandfathered in. There's no grace period. It's like you're guilty of violating their policies. So you got to be really careful with this stuff. I'm not saying that you need to go over to Rumble or anything like that, but you just need to be very mindful of how to go about giving YouTube what they want so that they'll leave you alone. Also want to give a huge shout out to Major Chai Chai, who's gifted 5 Salty Nerd podcast memberships, allowing us to hit our goal very early on in the show. Thank you so much, Major Chai Chai.
Exceeded our goal, I believe. That's amazing.
Yes, we've exceeded our goal. And but Major Chai Chai and Jillian N have been gifting memberships quite regularly. They are our top gifters for the live stream. So thank you both so much for doing that. I know that people in the chat are very appreciative of it as well. All right, guys. So we've talked about the YouTube thing, and now we're going to talk about how artificial intelligence will destroy Hollywood. And this is, I'm looking forward to this conversation because we're going to get into some interesting stuff here. Let me just pull up this article. So I don't know if you guys know this, but OpenAI has announced a new AI video tool. And what it is it's a text prompt to video tool. Basically, you type in what you want to see, and then AI generates a video based off of the text that you inputted. Now, what's different here is that OpenAI announced this new feature. It's called Sora. So for those of you who don't know, OpenAI is the company behind ChatGPT. And this is now their foray into video generation. There are a lot of other AI video generators out there, but this one, Sora, is so far ahead of those video generators that basically within a year's amount of time between the first AI video generation and now, it's almost like going from roller skates to a Ferrari. Okay, like that's the comparison here. And what Sora allows you to do is allows you to create photorealistic images or photorealistic video up to a minute long Prior to this, AI generated videos were just like 4 seconds, 6 seconds, stuff like that. And they'd get wonky the longer the video goes along. But with Sora, you're getting cinematic quality video, real, like photorealistic video for up to a minute. And it is a game changer. It is a huge game changer. And basically, once this was announced, the beginning of the end for so many different jobs in Hollywood started ticking down. Okay.
Yep.
So for instance, if you made your living doing drone shots, like for B-roll, gone. Nobody needs you anymore. If you are a conceptual artist or a 3D animator, your days are numbered. If you're a production company that produces commercials, guess what? In a couple of years, you're going to be obsolete. And it's all starting right here and right now. And lots of people in Hollywood are freaked out about this. In fact, James Cameron just last year said that he predicted in 3 years' time, you'll be able to see a AAA studio quality movie generated by AI. That was his prediction. And he's one of the forerunners of technology in Hollywood. So this is going to be a very interesting development, because in 1 year's time, by 2025, the technology that they use for Sora is going to be so much more advanced, and you're going to see so many more competitors come out using even more advanced AI to generate video. And it's going to get to the point where you could sit down at your home computer and create a AAA Hollywood studio quality movie just by yourself. And that puts everyone's job as an entertainment at risk. So I want to go around here and get some information on this. Now, Tom, I know we don't have you for very long, so I want to throw this to you first.
Sure.
What's your take on AI video and how it's affecting the industry?
Well, I've been saying this for a while. The one thing that was finally going to get the industry to change, except for maybe Taylor Swift, would be that somebody turns around, uses something like this, and ends up saying, oh, I don't know, remaking the Star Wars sequels and making them good. And then the studios are going to go, oh, crap. Now what? Because, I mean, there is a lot of applications that this stuff could be used for. I've predicted at some point you'll be able to go, oh, I want to see Highlander, but starring Matt Damon instead of Christopher Lambert. Or I want to see, Ghost, but I want to be in the role of Patrick Swayze, like your own personal self, right? Like you'll be able to literally self-insert yourself into these movies. But on top of that, I mean, if there's something you don't like about a movie, you'll be able to go in and just tell your AI what you want it to change, and it'll just do it for you. And I think Hollywood should be worried about this. They should have been worried about this during the last strike. But instead of them worrying about it, they're looking at it going, oh, look at all this money we can save by using AI, instead of stopping to think, oh, I wonder how AI could be used against us now that we suck.
That's very true. Culture, a big thing about this is it's going to impact the below the line people on a lot of these things, like the union guys, the cinematographers, the videographers. Basically, right now, just using Sora as it is, you could basically create insert shots or establishing shots without having to go back and reshoot stuff. So what's your take on how Sora in particular might impact Hollywood?
Well, I would say that the people that were out there marching around and striking for as long as they did this last summer were striking for a reason. They just didn't realize how close to the end it was for many of their jobs. One of the most expensive parts of production is everybody else required to be there that's not an actor or a director or cinematographer or whatnot. It's everybody else that's there. I mean, you'll have multiple electricians and specialists in these various positions that are there because they're mandated by union. If you're in a position where you don't need any of those jobs, because again, as Mr. Cadis suggests, you can sit down at your own computer and write out a nice little script of prompts that create this amazing project. At what point do you need almost anybody? I mean, outside of the creative themselves. I mean, and at the time, this is a terrible thing that's going to happen to an industry that, relies on so many of those jobs. I mean, consider just the catering bill alone for some of these films is, more than the production cost of an episode of Game of Thrones.
Yeah. It's true. Man, I hadn't even thought about that. That's nuts.
you know, Odin, one of the things that really stands out to me when it comes to this is that this is going to have a huge impact on the bottom line of studios, where basically instead of spending $200 million on a movie, AI is going to allow them to eliminate union workers, special effects workers, animators, videographers, like all this stuff. Eventually, I think every studio would probably just have like a volume soundstage where you can go on, film with actors against like, you know, a LED screen or even a green screen. And then everything else is taken care of by AI. And the director is just sitting there with like a prompt guy who's getting paid like $100,000 an hour. And they just sit there and they keep typing stuff until everything looks the same. But, you know, a lot of the thing about the strikes was that actors and writers were worried about being replaced by, you know, AI. But in reality, it looks like a lot of the below the line people are going to be replaced first. And they're the ones who are going to be out on the street, and they don't have any recourse. So what do you think of that?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be difficult to really predict exactly when something to that level will happen, because remember, a lot of the people that seem to be running Hollywood these days are very old, just very old and very old school. And so I think a lot of them will probably kind of just deny. It's kind of similar to what we've seen before about when new technologies advance and you have a lot of these people saying, oh, I'm not going to do that new trend because I'm just going to keep doing the way I always did. And then eventually they just screw themselves over, you know, down the line. And so I wouldn't be surprised if we see something similar happen here, where the major studios don't quite adopting AI technology in that kind of, you know, way or to that degree for at least some time remaining. But as far as the jobs that will be impacted by it, it's one of those tough things too, because it does have to get to a point where the AI actually does look, you know, so legitimate that it doesn't have that same uncanny valley, you know, feel to it. And I feel like a lot of times when I look at things that are developed by AI, as impressive as it is, because it is impressive, there is still that sense of it being artificial and its sense of not actually being real and authentic. And so I think that that's going to be interesting to see whether there is a time and how much time it does take for humans as just a species to be able to kind of tell the difference between one or the other and how much of a difference that it might be. It kind of reminds me a little bit also of how you have these innovations in film where some people have gone the IMAX route, some have gone the 3D route, and then you had someone like Peter Jackson go the high frame rate route. And that was one where a lot of times a lot of people didn't like it because they thought, okay, this is just weird, and I'm just not getting used to that. And so I'm wondering if there might be something similar happen with anything created and developed through different AI technologies. But you know, let's say it does happen and jobs are lost. That's also something that happens. I mean, you think about how movies used to be made. There are so many jobs that they used to have that they don't have anymore. And honestly, there's in many cases, if you look to even older films, you didn't need a lot of people to make movies. Some of the best films that have ever been made were made with, you know, a fifth, a sixth, if not more, like as far as like less people, you know, listed. You know, you used to have it where the credits were at the very beginning and the credits would only just be like a couple of minutes and the number of names on there would be maybe a couple of dozen. And now you look at the end of a movie, especially a big budget film, and it's just, you know, hundreds and hundreds of people. So, you know, obviously it's going to be terrible when a lot of these people eventually do lose work, because some will. But at the same time, this is something that, one, the industry kind of used to be, where people had to wear more than one hat sometimes. And then also, two, that the people that are going to lose jobs are then also going to, you know, naturally be able to learn different skills and things like that. This is not a learn to code comment, by the way. It's just more of a, this is what naturally happens, right? When you lose one job, another job ultimately will become available. It's just going to be slightly different.
Well, I will say this real quick. I just want to jump in here because even though those credits were shorter back then, that was because a lot of people just didn't get credit. Like you worked underneath somebody else and the main person got credit, but you didn't. That being said, like, yeah, no, it's one of those things that I agree with you 100% wholeheartedly, that the bigger problem is there's too many people on these productions that you don't need. And it's the guilds that are, you know, expressing that they need like 3 people for one job. That's a problem. Yep. But you do have to adjust. And there's one person I can think of specifically that this reminds me of, and that's Phil Tippett. I don't know if you guys recognize the name or not. You should if you're a Star Wars or Jurassic Park fan, because Phil Tippett used to be a stop motion animator. And the moment he saw the computer generated dinosaurs for Jurassic Park, he goes, well, I'm extinct.
Yep.
And he literally went through this huge depression thing because of that. But what he ended up doing, he's like, well, I got to make myself worth of value. Well, he still had all that knowledge of animation with his hands, right? Well, he worked with the guys over at ILM and they made him a rig where he could literally do the kind of stop motion stuff he was doing with the actual puppets, only it would feed it into the computer. So then he started his own studio, and then he just had to adapt to the system, right? Like, so that's what he does now. He's got his own CGI studio or whatever. But yeah, it's just the studios are going to have to adapt. Everybody within the system is going to have to adapt. But they should have been thinking about this a while back. That's what Culture and I think we're both saying.
Well, I want to throw this to George. George, like the impact in advertising alone for this technology. So like, you know, right now you have production companies that specialize in shooting commercials. Like, let's just say a car commercial, for instance, and Toyota will spend like $2 million on on a single commercial. That's like 30 seconds long, maybe 60 seconds. Well, now companies can use AI for like $60 a month to create a photorealistic car commercial that rivals anything that these production companies could put out, especially because it's quick. Like, you know, Odin mentioned the uncanny valley, but with Sora, everything you know is so good that unless you're really looking at it under a microscope, you don't notice the flaws. You don't notice the uncanny valleys. Like the example videos that OpenAI put out are completely like realistic,
Right.
as long as you don't study them too much. So when it comes to this, it's like you're going to have every company from small business to big corporations able to create $1 million quality advertisements just off of their computer, and it'll affect voiceover artists. It'll affect, you know, the residuals for commercial actors, like all this stuff. So what's your take on this? How disruptive do you think this is going to be eventually?
I think it will be in the beginning disruptive. I think Hollywood has a big problem, and I think it's going to change the moment that someone takes The Hobbit, Peter Jackson's The Hobbit or something like that, Hobbit, Lord of the Rings, Star Wars, and they remake it and it's 10 times better. And they're going to be, what the hell did we do? And I think for advertisers, there's going to be a new niche. But for all of the downside, I also see a silver lining. It's the same way when you had, does anybody remember Napster?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Napster.
So remember when Napster came out? Oh my God, what's going on here? Everybody flipped. And then now we have streaming, sign up to Apple Music for whatever, a couple bucks a month and get all the music you want. Well, just look at the vinyl record industry, right? In 2000, it had its worst year in its history. The vinyl records were at $36 million. That was its market cap, $36 million. Today, it's at 1.7 billion. Its projected growth by 2026 will be 3.8. By 10, it will be 10 billion, and it goes exponentially. Why? Yes, this is going to be tough on Hollywood. I think they're going to pull back the reins on a lot of it. They're going to be able to fill in some slots because they're going to see the technology. But again, when people start recreating classics that they love, whether they put themselves into it, whether they fix the films, because I love Peter Jackson. And I don't know if you know my channel like in that way, but Tolkien is what I built half of my channel on because I love Tolkien. And someone will take Rings of recycled fantasy and go, no, let me show you how to do the Silmarillion. Well, what do you think Amazon's going to say to that? After they dumped $1 billion into it to buy the rights and then to film it. Where I'm going to with the vinyl records is I believe that there will always be a niche. And I think that's going to benefit every single YouTuber. Because authenticity, as Robert Meyer Burnett always loved to say, my good friend, authenticity, honesty is where it's at. And when you're going to be having AI, whether it's Sora or whatever else Hollywood uses as it progresses further and further down the line, there's going to be people who love it. And then there are going to be people who want, you know what? I want human beings. I want something unscripted. I want something original. The vinyl record people. I think you're going to have a huge market that's going to blossom.
I think you're also seeing that with the comparison of animated movies, right? Because you have a lot of them are computer animated, and yet there's still a market for just the classic hand-drawn style, right? Even though obviously they're using newer technologies, and it's not as laborious as it used to be. But I think about especially Studio Ghibli and Miyazaki, like a lot of them, like there's obviously still a market for that.
Well, you hit the nail on the head. Think of what the Japanese companies do. I love anime. And there was a time where I wanted to focus much more on anime, but I saw all the strikes that people get, the way that you have to kind of create some of your own stills because the Japanese animation companies like just hammer you to death. And think about that. The animation field, the Japanese are not going to take. They're not going to allow someone to take Robotech and go, let me continue the story. Let me redo it for, 2030. Let me take, the Viking Saga or Death Note or any one of those. They have opened a door which they believe is going to help them. But until AI, I know now we're talking about AI text to video, right? But the bridge that's going to be that they need to cross is when they can combine that with a good storytelling. Because so when your question about advertising, cool. You have someone who could spend $60 a month and they can create a great video. Where, though, is the storyteller? Where is going to be the marketing specialist who's going to say, yeah, you know what? This looks beautiful. You saved $2 million, but it's not compelling. It looks nice. You don't have this whole set. You still need human beings. AI is not at that potential. Unless we're going to hit the singularity in the next few years, it doesn't understand art, humor, and sarcasm. The key things of our nature that reach into your soul and go, wow, I want to buy that. I want to move there. I want to fly there. So until that happens, I don't think we have that much to worry. And I also believe that Hollywood is going to self-correct once they realize the trap that they stuck themselves in.
Well, Matt Bader, kind of going off of what George just said about creativity and the human factor of this, I think in addition to all the jobs within the entertainment industry that are in danger because of this technology, I think a lot of studios are underestimating the fact that this technology opens up a wide range of competition. Yes, they might be able to get their stuff in theaters, but I think a report just came out that YouTube is the leading cable provider now. People watch YouTube TV and YouTube more than cable and satellite at this moment. And so it's going to be easier for people to self-publish the stuff that they make. And so what this technology really does is it opens up a tremendous amount of competition for Hollywood.
Yeah.
So now all of a sudden Star Wars might have to, instead of taking Star Wars and continuing the story, it might be original sci-fi stuff that puts Star Wars to shame.
Right.
And small YouTubers making these movies or videos
There you go.
with this technology are now taking Hollywood to task. What do you think the impact of that is? I
think you're nailing it on the head. I think this is going to give, aside from the studio system, it's going to give people like us a resource to make our own entertainment. You and I and Alex and Jude, we'll sit around a table just for fun and we will spitball ideas. And we have, I don't know, probably 3 or 4 really good, solid, fun things that we have down on paper that we kind of want to play with and write and produce someday. And even if it's just a 5-minute short or something, I can totally see this kind of technology giving us yet another way to bring some of those concepts to life to be able to share with people. You know what I'm talking about, Matt? And it's just another tool, right? It's another tool that people are going to have to get used to be having around. AI is not going away. It's not. It's here. It's here to stay, and it's going to cost a lot of people their jobs. It's just going to happen. It's something that we're, as a society, are going to have to learn to deal with and pivot. Even in my real world job, and I've talked about this before. It's not in the movie world. Nothing to do with the movie world. I'm in the asset protection world in giant strip casinos in the Las Vegas Strip. Just in the last 2 weeks, I have sat in my director's office as he is showing me new programs that are doing things that are going to put me out of work. Or they're going to take our staff of 10 people and take it down to 2 people. You know what I mean? And it's crazy what this stuff does. I can't get into it because, I'm not allowed to talk about it. But it's affecting every industry. It's nuts. And I'm not really sure where all these people that are going to get kicked out of their jobs in the next 5 years are going to go. It's going to be insane. It really is. And I don't know what the answer is, but I can sit here as a kind of a guy who loves tech and gadgets and go, wow, that's really cool. And man, I can't wait to do this with that technology when it becomes available to me. But then I think about all those 5,000 people that are listed in the end credits of the movies, at the end. And I'm like, that's going to get taken down to about 40 people here in about 10 years. And where are we all going to go? We're going to go into our little stacked up container boxes that are stacked up on top of each other with our little AI pods. And we're going to go into our little AI universes and play video games and solve puzzles and stuff and eat sludge out of our tubes that are attached to our nose and eat our Soylent Green and stuff. That's where we're going. We're going into a dystopian nightmare with this stuff if we don't figure it out really, really quick.
Well, and this is the studio's fault. Like I was saying, I said some kid in their basement's going to make these movies better, and they're going to go, oh crap, we should have made this copyrightable and or illegal in the first place. And what they did was they were just looking at it like, oh, well, look at all this money we're going to be able to save by not using all these people, not thinking about what the actual ramifications are going to be.
Well, there's also go ahead, George.
I want to say, I see all the downsides. I think a lot of this is going to self-correct because it has to for survival. You've touched on it. You started that conversation, Matt, and then Vader picked up the ball. Let's look at it this way, just to wrap that segment up. When the first YouTuber, right, turns around and makes a film using that starts out grossing a Hollywood blockbuster, you're going to see everything change because they're not going to take that because that's the impact. Like I've been working on a movie now because I had announced it a year ago. It's a Star Wars based fan film, right? With this type of technology, right? When you turn around and shame Disney, what do you think they're going to do? Forget all the problems, the legalese. When the audience goes, this is better than the crap they've been feeding us. You think they're going to just sit around and go, oh, well, let's just continue down this road unabated. We're just going to keep. No, they're not. But people keep forgetting. Yes, there are going to be a lot of jobs lost. Same thing that happened with, when we went from horses to cars. Buggy whips went out of style. They didn't have anymore. But you're going to need people. I don't care how great AI is. It's not, I love science fiction, but we're not at that point that AI can mimic the human spirit and the human heart. You need great storytelling. You need great actors. You need, when you're looking at The Godfather and you see Al Pacino's eye just to tremble for a second when he's in that scene, you need a human being. And whether Hollywood can reproduce that one day, people will want people. Well, you're going to have a generation that loves it, and then you're going to have others who are going to go, no, I want the real thing.
There's also some benefit to the consumer experience that this opens up. So, for instance, in VR, imagine watching The Godfather in VR, and AI video creates the set around you. And so, you can actually be in the movie watching the events unfold thanks to generative AI, which can basically fill in everything that you never got to see on the screen. Things like going to the movie theater and having a 180-degree experience on there, forget IMAX,
right?
Yeah. This is the type of thing. You're in your seat, and then boom, you're in a dome.
You're talking William Gibson. You're talking now, the dream of probably every sci-fi nerd under the sun. When I first read William Gibson, you're talking true VR. When true VR that you're describing actually hits the market, forget heroin, coke. That will be the most addictive drug on the planet because people can live wherever they want inside of their living room. Put the goggles.
Do you think the Matrix started because they forced us into anything? Yeah, exactly.
Again, Ready Player One. This is what's playing out right now.
I've already told you guys. I already know how I'm dying because I had a vision that I'm going to die in the VR world slaying dragons. When I get smashed by a giant red dragon, and it's going to stop my heart in some kind of weird goggle and folded holodeck kind of thing. So, and if that's how I go out, I'm cool with that. Whatever. I just want to, I'm going to be that 85-year-old fat guy on the ground with my wooden sword that I was playing in the thing, and I'm like, okay, whatever, it's fine.
Funny enough, Vader, there was a series of books. I don't know, it was 15 years ago called, I think, Dream Park. And that's what you did. Yeah. It's like going to Disneyland, but you went in there and you sit, and it was fantasy gaming. You're like, okay, what do you, it's D&D a lot. And you set the levels, do you want it where nothing can kill you, nothing can hurt you, and you're there.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I don't know if you guys saw the announcement. It was either WB or Disney, but they announced this new type of flooring that allows you to like just walk in place. And so
Yeah,
like,
it was yeah, it was designed by an inventor that has been working for Disney forever. One of the few that they allow to keep the patents, some of the patents that he's designed. So that Imagineer came up with that omnidirectional flooring material you're talking about. It's fascinating.
Yeah, so that combined with VR and generative AI. I mean, Apple just released that
That god awful thing.
Yeah,
and they're getting returned at a record rate, Matt.
Right? Yeah.
But it's the start. It's the pebble that turns into the big snowball, right? But I want to get to some super chats here real quick before we move on to our next topic. So Penny, a member for 10 months, Danny's mom, Penny. So how should we respond to the email about WDWPro? You don't need to respond to that email. It's just kind of like when they send you that email, it was just basically like an auto thing that goes out. What you want to do is you want to get on Twitter, formerly known as X, formerly known as Twix, whatever they're calling it right now, and tag at Team YouTube and just tell them, hey, can you look at WDWPro, whatever his account name is, and his channel because he was falsely demonetized or something like that. Just create awareness.
He just put out a video about an hour ago, I think it looks like. I haven't watched it yet, but he directly responds to this, so I'm sure also anything that he says in the video he'll mention.
I'm not sure Penny X's. I don't think she Twixes, does she?
Mm-hmm. She probably doesn't, but tell your friends, spread the word. Bob Dorsey gifted 5 Salty Nerd Podcast memberships. Nice. One of our salty superstars from last year. Bob, good to see you. Thank you for being here today.
It's nice having you.
Really appreciate your generosity. That is fantastic. And Lover of Green for $10. Hollywood didn't drop the health mandates until last year after 90% of America already got back to normal. Whatever trends come along like AI, it's too late for Hollywood to respond. Hollywood is very slow to adapt.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
look at almost what I was saying. Yeah, sorry.
Any behind the scenes footage that you see from any of the films the last couple of years, everyone's still masked up if you're on the crew. So it's clear that they're very, very far behind on this.
Yeah, and especially considering the fact that the government has come out and said, "Oh, we know masking didn't work. The 6-foot thing was made up." Like everything that they told us to do was basically BS, right? And they've admitted to that. That's not conspiracy theory. We're not going to have like a little COVID misinformation thing underneath this video by saying that, because the government just basically came out and said, like, yeah, we lied to you guys for like a year, So once these things get embedded in industry where it's like, oh, we have to have a COVID consultant on every single one of our shoots, that doesn't go away, right? Because all of a sudden people's livelihoods are attached to it. There's union rules. There's all types of safety concerns, whatever the case may be. If you're making a movie with Will Wheaton, he's going to require you to have a COVID consultant on there, making sure everyone is masked and 6 feet apart.
Ain't nobody making no movie with Will Wheaton.
So don't hire him.
Yeah, if you want to make money, you're definitely not employing Will Wheaton.
Yeah. You need to like flash the thing. I cleanse my brain of Will.
No, well, please don't. We'll get this channel.
No, that's not what I'm talking about.
Oh,
man, there we go. That's a good one.
Yes, old toy soldier. All right, and the Sundowners Club for $19.99. Nice. Thank you, Sundowners Club. AI is a tool, and talented artists that live anywhere in the world willing to utilize it to make great stories will rise to the top. It becomes a question of how their content reaches a mass audience. Yes, so as long as the studios have like the pipeline to theaters, they will always kind of like have the advantage. But I'm telling you, with theater industry on its heels, like if you have something good and you have a following online or whatever the case, and you premiere your stuff in a theater, because it's all digital projection now, so they just need like a download. People can come to the theater and pay to see your stuff, or you can publish it on YouTube. A lot of comedians are doing their stand-up specials on YouTube instead of Netflix and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So there is a venue with which content creators can reach a mass audience by doing this stuff.
When we did our screening with Chris Gore and R&B last year at the theater, that when you pulled out the PlayStation controller to start the movie, I just about died. That because that's all you need to play a movie at a movie theater now is a PlayStation, right? Something that'll plug into it was hilarious. So
yeah,
the technology is not that hard.
Or you can insert a USB and do.
But it also
Right.
goes to show what we've lost here too. Like, and this is what has me concerned more than
Right.
some of the other stuff is the lack of quality, the lack of where this generation of filmmakers is losing an entire. I mean, they're going to be just as bad as this as like NASA and stuff before we know it. They're not even going to know how to do old school composites or anything else. Like, they're going to look at film and go, well, what do I do with this? You know what I mean? Like, and this is what has me more concerned is there's a preservation problem we have right now. And I know Odin knows what I'm talking about. That's going to be a bigger problem in the next 10, 15 years because these kids don't know what they're doing. And anyway, yeah,
No, and
it's going to get worse.
I'm glad you brought that up though, because I think oftentimes when we talk about any development of technologies, we think of these examples where, oh, well, you still see people that are, using this technology that's from the past and it's still got, I think vinyl is a great example of that, but you don't see it out all the time. Film's a great example. I remember when theaters went all digital, it seemed almost like overnight that just like, oh, all of a sudden now now that may have been because they were, the actual studios were prepping for that and stuff, but still like the fact that fell apart so quickly, now almost maybe a couple of big time directors I think are still working with film.
Yeah,
and
like
maybe not all the time.
Tarantino and
Nolan who does
Nolan,
IMAX.
and that's about it. Yeah.
So
Well,
does it go the way
tell
of
you-
one or the
Wes
other? is the
Anderson
question.
as well. Sorry, but
I'll tell you, as a man who went through film school before the advent of digital cameras, fuck film. That shit was so expensive and so hard to deal with. It was a nightmare. I couldn't wait for digital to take over.
You know what? And I counter with screw your digital because it looks like sterilized garbage. It doesn't feel like photochemical film. It doesn't look like it's supposed to. I was promised by George Lucas 30 years ago that this crap was going to look like film. It still don't.
Eventually,
Still doesn't.
You're going to be able to make it look like film if you want to.
Well, that's what I was told 30 years ago.
Right. I'm gonna interject here for a second. The thing is Tom is right. Odin is right. What they're lacking today, and I do think. Look, how many YouTubers are there? What's the number? I forgot how many millions.
God,
Anybody know?
Happy millions.
Okay,
At this point, yeah.
so out of that, you're gonna have your Lucases. Look at Alexander Payne's Holdovers, right?
Great film.
It is a great film. What did he do? He made a movie that takes place in the early 1970s, right? But it feels like it was made in the 70s. He added in the fake grain, the celluloid scratches. But what was the most endearing part of the film? He actually wrote the characters in a chronological, character-based approach for storytelling that hasn't been done since the 70s, really, a couple of times here and there films. That requires experience, reading, knowledge, living life. So all these people who don't have that, like Tom was saying, they're going to pump out the garbage if they do. But you're going to have other people fill in the roles who have that.
You know what, though, going back to this real quick before we move on to our final super chat, film is so much more expensive to duplicate and ship and get to theaters and get back. Digital projection was great. And I would have killed for a camera like this when I was in film
No,
school.
and I agree with you to a point, man. I'm like, and I even wrote it in the back here, like I empathize. But at the end of the day, I think if there's like the films that look the best to me are the ones that are shot on film, then they scan them right away, and then they do all the editing and stuff digitally. Because film itself just has an inherent look, feel about it that feels real. It feels natural.
I agree.
You just can't capture like maybe it's the way that the digital captures light. I don't know yet. There's so many things and variables they haven't been able to figure out, but I do understand, man. And at the end of the day, I still say fine, have digital projection. As much as I miss 35 millimeter, I don't miss the problems. You're right.
But the format is the least of the worries. I mean, it's what George is talking about. It's like we don't have the creatives, the writing, the people that can put these stories together.
That's what you need.
Yeah, I mean, I know we'll probably visit this, but I mean, I saw probably the worst film of the year already. And I mean,
Madam Web.
If we can move on, we'll get to talk about that.
Go
real
for it.
quick.
Do we have
Critic list for $50? Wow. Great work, guys. Also, this AI conversation is nightmare fuel from Critic List with love. Kissy face. Yes. Sexy hat, Odin.
I gotta get with you. I keep forgetting to email him back.
If you're not on Critic List,
It's not so much that I keep forgetting. It's just I got 100,000 things to do in a day, and I never get them done.
If you're not on Critic List, everybody go check it out. It's an amazing, really fun, super cool website. Go sign up.
it's critic less, not
Critic less.
list.
Yes.
Don't want to do that. Oh wait, Odin, stay right there. Stay right there. There we go. Criticless.
There you go.
Okay. All right, guys. So let's talk about our main thumbnail today, which is they're turning the actresses gay.
No, really?
So gay.
Unbelievable.
Guys, we're gonna get super gay right now. Just
Oh, gosh.
man.
warning,
Okay.
warning.
All right.
All right. So I don't know if you
Put a ticket in, make your name gay.
I don't know if you guys know this or not, but Kristen Stewart basically graced the cover of Rolling Stone as an androgynous looking, she's got like a greasy mullet and she's wearing a jock strap.
Are you actually going to show this picture? Because if you are,
Please
I am
don't.
going to leave.
Yeah.
No,
Like
I'm
it
not
makes me feel uncomfortable in like the wrong ways.
It does. You need a
that's
safe
because-
space.
It makes me want to throw up. I'll be honest
That's
with you.
because
It's
you're a
sickening.
radical right winger, Tom.
I don't
Dare
give
you,
a
Tom.
shit.
But so in the Hollywood Reporter, they actually did like a big article about this. Guys, links in the description for all the articles that we go through in the show. So be sure to check this out if you want to get into the details here. But basically, Kristen Stewart, so she's out there promoting this new like queer movie that she's in. It's a lesbian romance that's also like a thriller. It has to do with bodybuilding. She plays a gay gym owner or a queer gym owner. I don't know like what exactly she is. But so she thought it or
Wait,
her
is she
manager-
queer or the gym is?
Both. I don't know.
Okay, that makes sense.
So someone thought it'd be a good idea for her to do like an androgynous publicity stunt with Rolling Stone, where she basically did a photo shoot in a men's locker room where she dressed up like a 15-year-old boy from the 80s or something like that. And basically, Kristen Stewart came out and said that she wanted to do the gayest fucking thing for her Rolling Stone cover shoot, and she succeeded. I might indeed say. only thing gayer would have been her actually having sex with another woman during the.
I don't know if
shoot.
that was really gay so much as it was dykish. I mean, I don't know if I can even use that word, but
Wow.
But you
So-
just did.
Thanks, man.
So
because when I think of gay, I think of men, and I think
well,
Yeah,
so her
blaming gay
movie
like that.
her movie is called Love Lies Bleeding, and it's one of those weird indie things. And for those of you who don't know, so Kristen Stewart used to be a very attractive girl. She was into guys. She dated Robert Pattinson. She had an affair with the director of her movie Snow White and the Huntsman. And ever since that affair got exposed, and she got such a huge backlash against it for cheating on Robert Pattinson with this director and ruining this director's marriage and all this other stuff, she basically decided I'm through with dudes. I'm now into chicks. And she's publicly bi. She says I'm bisexual and queer, but she's pretty much gone full lesbian since Snow White and the Huntsman. And I believe she's like engaged to another woman at the moment. And if you've seen any of her recent films, like you can just tell, like, yeah, she's dyking up, right? She's like shaving her head. She's
thank you.
doing all this weird stuff. But I wanted to kind of point out this.
Oh God.
I wanted to kind of point out this story because there's a broader implication here, right? It's not just that Kristen Stewart did this publicity stunt where she, looked like a young boy on a cover of Rolling Stone or whatever. There's actually a broader trend in Hollywood that's been going on for decades, right? And it started in the fashion magazines in the fashion world, where basically the heads of the fashion world were all homosexuals, right? And so they would take women, beautiful women, models, and try to make them look more like little boys because that's what they found attractive. And they wanted to push that out to broader audiences. And Hollywood has been on a concerted effort throughout the years to normalize, quote unquote, LGBTQ stuff. And we've seen it recently with like Chris Gore's exposure of the DEI requirements. We've seen it with Elon Musk exposing Disney's, chart of diversity, Netflix doing their DEI stuff. But the big thing that I've noticed is that overwhelmingly, in whatever movie or TV show you might be watching, what inevitably happens is that they'll take a leading character who's a female character, and they'll just make her gay. They'll just reveal that she's a lesbian, and she's been a lesbian all along, or she wasn't a lesbian, and she just all of a sudden decides that I'm into chicks. And you see this time and time again. Like Vader, we were watching Monarch, Legacy of Monsters,
Mhm.
and one of the main characters of that is very, very attractive Asian girl.
Yeah.
And midway through the season, they just revealed, oh, she's a lesbian. She's been in a lesbian relationship. She cheats on her lesbian fiance with other lesbian lovers, you know. And even look at Star Trek Picard, where you had 7 of 9. Never before was 7 of 9 considered to be a lesbian. You know, she had a relationship with Chakotay in the series, but all of a sudden she had some type of sexual relationship with like some type of mob lady who she ends up murdering. And then she decides that Raffi, someone who has never expressed any inclination towards being a hitting for the same team, all of a sudden they're in a intimate lesbian relationship. And so like there seems to be this overwhelming propensity to take female characters and make them, as Tom would say, lame and gay. You have that.
Well, they want to take they want to take our male gaze off of the hot chicks, and you know,
put a ticket in, make her name and gay.
But they've been doing that. But they've been doing that for a while.
Yeah. Hold on. Let me finish my diatribe. So there's this propensity to basically focus on female characters in movies and TV shows, and make them either bisexual or queer or gay. By the way, queer has no real definition, so you can just say you're queer and be a protected class. So, you know, just wanted to throw that out there for those of you who are interested. But here's the thing, right? So Hollywood is on a concerted effort right now to make lesbians the feature of pretty much everything that they produce. And I want to go around the panel and I want to get everyone's take on not only Kristen Stewart diking it up, because I don't even think lesbians find what she did attractive, right? But I want to get to the broader issue here, which is Hollywood is specifically targeting women, because I think most men are like, it's easier for them to accept like a hot lesbian than it is like, you know, a dude just saying like, you know, like I'm gay all of a sudden, right? So I want to start with Odin. Odin, what's your take on Hollywood turning the actresses gay?
Well, I think it's just a part of the broader cultural shift that we've seen for a very long time, right? Because what have you seen happening, you know, across the country, whether it be through different laws or just through, you know, media itself? There's been this huge wave of not just even, it's, you know, it used to be where people said, you know, oh, you need to be more tolerant, right? You need to improve your tolerance. And now it's no longer about tolerance. Now it's about, no, you need to actually accept me, and you have to actually endorse me, whether you agree with me or not. And if you don't, you get canceled. If you don't, you go away. And so I think that, you know, I think someone in the chat mentioned it. Ace mentioned in the chat saying, well, if her biggest issue was the fact that in her old relationships that were, you know, quote unquote standard, she would, you know, be exposed, and then all of a sudden the scandal, and then they get torn down. Okay, why not enter into a relationship where it's basically impossible to be canceled, right? Where it's like, oh, if anything gets exposed, they're like, oh, so brave, so brave. We need to clap for you. We need to promote you. Oh, you don't like that at all? You think you have a problem with the Rolling Stone cover, anything like that? Oh, that makes you a misogynist. That means that you are anti-LGBT. And it's honestly, it's very troubling, just from a, you know, as a person of, you know, from with a faith background and someone who very much takes it very seriously. I look around in the world and I just see so much brokenness. And I think a lot of this is kind of a problem of the heart and soul of our country and our world right now, where people are willing to, even, you know, to the extreme degrees, give up reason itself to try to be more quote unquote welcoming, when in fact all that it ends up being is the cases of these extremes where children, obviously, is kind of what I'm referring to, now also being impacted by it, because it's no longer about reason, it's no longer about logic, it's now all about the fifis, right? It's all about the feelings, and trying not to be canceled is essentially what it's become. And it's almost like it's acceptance at gunpoint, saying you will accept me or you are gone, and it's a big problem.
And George, I want to throw this to you, because as Odin brought up, there is a broader issue here where basically it's not just about acceptance anymore. It's not just about normalizing, oh, gay people exist and you need to treat them with respect, which I think everyone can agree on. But now it's at the point where it's targeting like young people and saying it's not just enough to accept, you have to become this.
Oh, yeah.
And so there are so many young women out there who get exposed to this stuff and be like, well, I guess I should be bi because that's just how life is now, even though like they might not
There's a
be...
time for that. It's called college.
Yeah, exactly. So George, do you think that this is a concerted effort by Hollywood to specifically try to influence young people to become something that they're not?
Absolutely. Well, it's another way for them to program a new generation that can become part of the Moo on Command herd. Remember, it's like everything that they do, you have the Hollywood Hive and they're a message machine, right? They used to make magic, they used to make movies, but now they're using films almost like program updates. Here's your program update. Take Kristen Stewart. This is exactly what an actor or what an actress does when they went from being a former A-list pimple popper to today being a D-list wannabe. It's called desperation. It didn't work for Ellen Page. I mean, when you look at the pictures of the people as we go back to what they're doing, you got Ellen Page in Inception, all smiles. Today, all looking like misery. Does Kristen Stewart look anything like she used to be? Smiling? Not smiling. But when it comes to the children, what they're trying to do is they're trying, when you get right down to it, they're not only trying to change them, they're trying to pit them against their families. Remember, what holds a nation together, a home together, a church together? You have the message. If it's in a church, it's whatever you believe in, whether it's Christ or Judaism. And that message, that spirit holds you together. In a family, you have love, you have faith, the bonds. Well, what happens when you have children who are now pitted against that as part of the cultural message? They're dividing the house so it can fall, so it can break. I mean, we've seen this before throughout history in Marxist kind of like revolutionary thought. It's all about divide and conquer. And it's another reason why Hollywood is failing. It's because they're programming movies not for the general audience, not with great storytellers, from hiring interns who are going to be reviewing the scripts, that they cut out anything that would be magical, that everybody would love and jump up and down and cheer, to putting out social justice warrior messages that only 1 to 2% want to see. It all comes back to they don't want us any longer to live and let live. You do you, I do me. We're all happy. No. They're like, get out your pom-poms and cheer, damn it, or you're an enemy. No. But
yeah, they expect you to be the ultimate ally. And we're seeing what the problem is, right? You're exactly right, George. It's all the stuff that Film Threat has in that D-Files write-up, right?
Yeah.
They basically learned more about how to get rid of old white dudes and take their jobs than actually how to do their jobs. That was pretty much what was written in that write-up.
And the reality is those old white guys, the creatives, whoever they were, knew what the hell they were doing. I mean, I sometimes think that Hollywood needs to go back to getting on coke and strippers so they can make movies again. And
that's why I always say cocaine and capitalism.
It's like, get back to what the hell you were doing. But when you peel it all back, why is Kristen Stewart doing this? Because she's a no one. Because she hit the age where she's fizzled out. She had her career, it's over. It happens to all actresses. And she's not Meryl Streep or, where she can transition. Let me do a serious role. So she's like, okay, I'm going to go the Ellen Page route. Let me shock you. But guess what? It's not shocking because we've seen it all. I mean, once you had a girl to go to become a dude and then show her chest, like, you're coming out like, what? I mean, I read the article. She's like, I even thought of having that little trail line of pubes because it's pubes. I'm like, what the fuck? She's like, well, I get them in my face all the time. Like, she thinks that's going to shock people. And you're like, oh, okay, you just said you like dudes. Which is it? Pick a brand, but that's not, it doesn't work for them. It is all about having a herd that does what they're told. And no one's buying it.
Will she be changing her name to Chris pretty soon? That's what
probably.
Well, I want to throw this to
Chris with an X.
I want to throw this to Vader real quick before we get to culture. So I'll give you a chance to finish that thought, culture, in a minute. But Vader, there's a different aspect to this broader issue, which is basically that anything that men find attractive or stimulating is instantly evil. Mm-hmm. And so not only is this, shift towards lesbianism meant to be indoctrinative, but it's also meant to basically eliminate any sex appeal from the male audience point of view. So like you have stuff like, for instance, Birds of Prey, which I got hugely criticized for,
Derailed. Yeah, you got
basically saying that there's no sex appeal in that movie. They took some very beautiful actresses and they made them unsexy, right? And so and for a primarily male audience for superhero films, that's like the death knell. We saw this again with the Marvels, not sexy at all. And it just seems like Hollywood's following this feminist Anita Sarkeesian philosophy of eliminating the male gaze from movies and therefore alienating half of their viewer base.
It's like they don't like money.
Yeah, men like to see hot girls. Like, we're going to talk about Madam Web.
So do women.
Women
They like to see hot men. That's why they had Chris Evans show his abs. It wasn't in
right.
Captain America: First Avenger. He wasn't sitting there like, oh, let's take off your like that was for the girls. Every actress today or an actor, they look like my next door neighbor. I want to go back to the days where you had the Sharon Stones. Where's the Kim Basinger's, the 9.5 Weeks, the Marilyn, like hot.
So to piggyback off of what George just said, Vader, why do you think Hollywood thinks it's a good idea to not have hot women in their movies anymore?
That's a question that I don't know the answer to, Matt. I really don't. I don't understand why they don't like to make money. I don't get it at all. I really don't. Completely lost my train of thought. Move on to culture. Let me ponder this for a second.
All right. Culture, I know you had a thought, so you can feel free to jump in with that. But more than that, kind of going along with what I just asked Vader. So Hollywood seems to think that everyone's gay and men shouldn't be allowed to appreciate a woman's beauty. And it doesn't seem to be changing anytime soon. Like, we keep seeing all this nefarious stuff come out about, okay, here are the diversity initiatives, but in addition to that, here are the, LGBTQ things that were forcing people to put in addition to basically the feminist stuff, which is further alienating, straight men. It doesn't matter what color they are. They're alienating straight men from their audience base. So what's your take on all this?
Well, I mean, obviously it's funny because I'll step back, and I'm trying not to be political, but I have no other choice at this point in time. Back when the formation of the PRC was happening, the idea was to make everybody look exactly the same, male or female, and try to draw and try not to draw a distinction between male and female. They went out of their way. This is just another way to go out to make sure that everybody puts themselves in a box to be identifying, but at the same time, it doesn't really identify anything. When you looked at pictures back then, men and women dressed the same. They wore the same clothing, the same hats, the whole nine. We're seeing that everywhere. And since the perception has been for a long time, unfairly, men have been cast as ultimately the rulers and the bad guys and, the women's downfall. Now, women's who can fulfill their, fantasies of not needing men by obviously forcing in becoming lesbian or whatnot. This is all concocted. It's taking advantage of mental illness that has been instilled in people, for quite some time. This is everybody telling you that your eyes are don't believe your lying eyes. I mean, this is that we're living in that point in time. But I mean, the biggest example that I saw this week of this is the peak of femininity is watching the premiere of Dune 2 event where, you get Zendaya 3PO walking around in some weird costume.
Hey, don't make fun of that. All right. That was hot. Okay. I'm just
what?
That was the best thing I've ever seen.
Vader's a robosexual, basically.
Right. That was awesome.
So you loved Han Solo then? No. You love okay. I'm like, wait a minute.
I'm just goofing with you guys. I'm just goofing.
Okay. All right, guys. Let culture finish this.
I was nearly done. All I was going to say is, I mean, Zendaya has been put up as some kind of icon for looking about as close to a 14-year-old kid as she can, and I mean a male kid, not a female kid. And that's what they get. That's what they're looking for in Hollywood. It's why you get the extreme, photo shoot and interview. Yeah, the kiss was ridiculous.
Yeah.
And it's why you get that in Rolling Stone or or Vanity Fair or wherever else we've seen similar types of things. And I don't, like I said, it's not surprising to me. I mean, and if men are no longer consuming entertainment, what are we doing? I mean, ladies like to look at ladies. You guys have made that point before. Men like to look at ladies. Men don't usually look at other men.
No.
You know, so it's
Well, at least not the way we look at Henry Cavill.
No,
anyway.
right. I mean, look,
Right.
I can watch Rambo and go, man, Sylvester Stallone's pretty fucking cut.
Yeah.
But I'm like, going, man, I wish, I don't want to like have sex with the dude, but we can appreciate, nice forms, just like women can appreciate. See, I'm really digging myself in the hole.
The idea is
Yeah.
You are.
But it's just
But
it's just, it is what it is. It is what it is.
But
You're
all it does, and this reinforcement's been happening every single day, whether it's Zendaya 3PO or, as somebody mentioned in the chat, Rogue no longer having a booty, because Rogue's backstory was the most intriguing thing about the 97 cartoon, to be fair. And like I said, I mean, just removing anything that could be drawing the male gaze has been the motivation. I have to tell you, I have very little appreciation for modern entertainment. And while we still haven't talked about the worst film of the year, I know we'll get to it. I mean, there's a whole lot of reasons why it's bad. And
I just want to add to that there's something that everybody's kind of like, we've skirted around it. Culture started to talk about it. He had his like finger right on the bubble, which is, why are they doing that? Okay. Why does almost every movie or television show look like your next door neighbor or the kid in high school who used to eat paste? It's because they are trying to appeal to people, right, who feel broken. Remember Hollywood? They have a bunch of broken toys and they want to break the world in order to feel normal. That's their goal. Break everybody so they can feel good about themselves. So they don't want to have attractive people. They don't want to have strong people. They don't want to have people with character. They want to have legends. Remember, to kill a society, you want to kill its heroes, its legends, its myths. Mm-hmm. Stars used to be stars. What do we have? We have what? A handful of movie stars today. The rest are just celebrities.
Well, George, I want to throw this to Tom real quick. Tom, Michael Ovitz coined the phrase "the gay mafia" when he worked in Hollywood, and there are a lot of gay people who just naturally kind of gravitate towards the arts. But in Hollywood and New York in particular, there are a lot of people in high places of power that are homosexual, or at least kind of like supportive of LGBTQ stuff. And we know that there's a bubble that exists in both LA and New York where everyone feels like outside of that, everyone thinks and acts the same way that they do in those two cities. And so, when you have this gay mafia that secretly controls Hollywood, and they're pushing their agenda, not just for acceptance, but now like transition into normalizing like being gay and gay relationships and whatever. And you have to wonder, like, how far out of step do they have to be with the mainstream before the mainstream starts rejecting the stuff that they get?
Well, I think we're kind of starting to see it already, right? I mean, Disney is the prime example. When you have families who have literally turned away from the number one global family brand, right? Because, you say the word Disneyfied or Disney used to evoke things like family, sanitized, safe. Now, when you say Disney, it means you might see some chicks kissing or dick sucking going on. I mean, that's really where we've gotten to this point with Disney. It's like, you never know what it could be. So that's why parents are like, I can't trust my kids to go see this movie. I have no idea what they're going to put in it now. And that's why the Marvels and everything else are failing too, because, it's just gotten to this point where people have rejected it wholeheartedly. And what you're doing is basically creating a whole, and it goes beyond entertainment, right? You're creating a whole generation of people who are going to be very racist, homophobic, transphobic, all these things that you're calling them right now, because they're just trying to live their normal life and they don't give a crap about any of this junk that you're throwing at them. When you have over 90% or roughly 90% of the population that has nothing to do with most of these sex, lifestyles or mental disorders that we talk about now on a daily basis, I mean, sooner or later, they're just going to turn away from it. They're not going to sit there and go, why would I bother with this anymore? And this is another reason why, it's the same kind of thing with, you brought up the music. I think it was George or whoever it was that brought up Napster earlier about the music thing. Well, the thing with that is it created this like void of new music, right? There was no way for people collectively to surround something, because we used to, as kids, we'd sit around the radio, we'd listen to the top 40 songs, we all knew them, right?
Yep.
So that's how things would, permeate through the culture. You don't have that anymore so much. That's why I think a lot of these kids are going back to the classic stuff, because they can relate to it more and people know it, right? And that's the thing my kid and I talk about the most is usually like classic rock and stuff. He's not so much into movies, but he loves music and he can't really relate to a lot of the new stuff, but he really digs Pink Floyd, AC/DC, Guns N' Roses, all the classic stuff I grew up with. So, I mean, it's a little even more intense than when I was a kid and I discovered the stuff like Led Zeppelin and the Beatles, right? That was cool to me at the time, but I still had my modern music, right? We had our Nirvanas, we had our Aerosmiths, we had all the newer modern groups that were making new music all the time. That just fell off. I think it's going to be the same thing here after a while if they don't start to change. Because we just said it earlier. People are just going to go back to older stuff and they're just going to watch traditional stuff. And it's not just because of it's not just because of values or anything like it. It's just because it's better and they're not being preached to. And this goes with the X-Men story, not to jump ahead if we're getting to that, but it has to go with the whole allegory thing because they don't know how to do allegory in Hollywood anymore. They don't understand it. But I'll get more to that if we get to the X-Men stuff.
As we wrap up this segment, I just want to point out, so like, I think most people, like the vast majority of people, don't care what your sexuality is. Like if somebody is gay or lesbian or whatever the case may be, if they want to marry a toaster, they're just like, okay, you do you. But when it comes to our entertainment, and the only thing you can say about a character that defines them is that they're gay, that's weak writing, that's lazy writing, that doesn't create acceptance. It creates more animosity because the character becomes something that you can just toss aside because they're not a real character. They're just an insert for whatever check mark that the studio determines that people need to accept.
Taylor Swift's a great example. No one would be hating Taylor Swift as much as they are now if the media, when the games were playing, kept shifting over to her and showing her and talking about her, right?
But Taylor Swift's a good point. There's something, and I don't know if y'all know this, and it perturbs me. It's because I wouldn't do this to anyone, but when she was doing her tour and she went to Brazil, y'all know about the Statue of Christ in Brazil,
Mm-hmm.
The famous one. You see Fast and Furious, any number of 100 movies. She used that for 4 days and to project images on there. We're talking advertisements. Now, I wouldn't do that to any religion, right?
No.
But to deface that for 4 days, and which I think they're doing a psyop for other reasons, but what we're getting down to is nobody cares anymore. I think the peak of that was like in the 90s. We hit a point where no one cared what your sex was. No one cared who you slept with. No one cared what color, nothing. We hit that point, and that wasn't enough for politicos. They're like, oh, wait a minute. People actually aren't divided. So everything now is, Tom just kind of hit the nail on the head a couple of minutes ago. It's like you're starting to get a backlash because normal everyday people want to live their lives. They want to do it. That's it.
But George, what was the difference?
The difference back in the 90s?
Yeah.
Oh, we all got along, but we didn't care. We lived our lives. Nobody cared.
Well, exactly. And why didn't they care? Because it cost you nothing.
Right.
The question is, somebody says, I'm gay. Okay. Do I have to do anything? No. Cool. Done. Right? Now it's, well, you have to acknowledge my pronouns. You have to call me by this weird name. You have to, celebrate everything that I do. I mean,
you have to suck my D. Yeah.
Well, look at that lady, 92-year-old. I didn't mean to cut you off, Culture. Just that 92-year-old lady who was fired as a volunteer for muscular dystrophy. Her husband had muscular dystrophy before he died. I think she's 82 or 92. She's been volunteering for over 40 years. She asked a simple question. She sent an email to the director saying, what is this pronoun thing? Because they wanted everybody in their emails that worked on staff or volunteered to list their pronouns. She just asked, what is it? And they fired her saying she was disrespectful. She's like, I don't know what the hell it is.
Well, guys,
that's where it's going. It's punishing people.
Speaking of not knowing what the hell it is, let's talk a little bit about Madam Web. So Madam Web was it's an ongoing disaster, apparently. Now, Vader and I have not yet seen the movie, so we can't really comment on it. But for those of you on the panel who did see the movie, I want to get your take. So, Culture, you've been you've been setting this up since the beginning of the stream. Worst movie of the year. So let's hear your take on Madam Web.
And it's only February.
We're in February. There will be no worse movie in my life this year than what I just saw. You have not seen what I have seen. And that was
Careful, Hollywood will be like, here, hold my Bud Light.
Perhaps.
Don't make a bar. Don't set a line, man.
No. Well, okay, but I'm saying, well, if they've been managing to limbo under a very low bar right now. But regardless, I have to tell you that the writing on this was terrible, and I will believe that other people have suggested that not only did the script change from the time they handed it to Dakota Johnson to the time that they shot the film, and all throughout its entire creation, that script was being redone. It's been suggested by many creators now that this was done by AI. ChatGPT did this script, and I believe it because it is nonsensical. The editing is ridiculous. The directing is terrible. There are no superheroes in this movie. None. There is a super villain, and why we don't know, and how we also don't know. We know that this particular spider is so venomous that it's supposed to kill you. Everything about this film was designed to replace what essentially the creation of Spider-Man was, and it follows along with a path that I opted out of comics. Actually, I guess now it's quite a long time ago, but I opted out of comics because of what they were doing at the time, which they were trying to replace the characters that were established, like Peter Parker, Spider-Man, etc., with all this new coming baloney sausage, and undermine the story by going farther back in other people's past to give them some kind of path to success. But this film is the personification of every bad idea all in one place, done by a cast and apparently a production crew full of chicks, and some 4 writers on this that collectively have never gotten more than I think 24% on a Rotten Tomatoes review. I mean, I can go through all of this other stuff, but my direct impression of following and watching this film was that this literally was just a female power throw spaghetti against the wall film without coming out and saying it. And that's just my impression. I found no value in this film, and I feel bad for all the ladies that were in there because they didn't get an opportunity. They didn't get an opportunity to even attempt to act. The dialogue.
They're not actors. They're activists. They're not actors.
Tom or Culture, I have one question for you.
Sure.
Is it better than Morbius?
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Not better.
Morbius is better.
Morbius rhymes with glorious. I don't believe you.
Morbius is much better than Madam
Morbius
Web.
is absolutely a better film.
Well, so let's get to Web in time. Tom, what's your take on Madam Web?
I haven't actually seen it. I've seen bits and pieces of it. I've seen quite a few reviews and breakdowns of it.
I gotta send it to you.
I have to watch it for Flashcast tonight, and I'm thinking about not showing up.
Just get really stoned. Just get blasted.
1.52 speed, man.
Honestly, I'm not even sure I need to really watch it. I've seen enough reviews of it now that I kind of know everything that happens in it to where it's like,
take it. Yes.
And then this happens, and then this happens, and then this happens, and this happens, and this. Like, that's the main thing I keep hearing. The one thing that's like every consistent thing that every reviewer is saying is that it feels like it was written by AI. Mm-hmm. So I'm just counting down till somebody figures out how to reverse search through AI to see if it was or not. And I'm not even joking, because I have a feeling that in about a month or two, we're going to find out that that is exactly what happened here. Is that somebody?
There were a lot of reshoots on this movie, but I went through this to Odin to get some box office analysis, because I'm wondering because the next thing out of Sony is
Marley ate its lunch.
Yeah. And I'm wondering that because Madam Web is being not only a box office failure, but it's being so criticized, if their strategy for this Spider-Verse that they're trying to build over at Sony, it's something where they might take a look at it and be like, maybe we shouldn't. What do you think, Odin?
Yeah, I mean, goodness gracious, the box office for this thing. So the projections right now are anywhere between domestically 20 and 24. I think it just bumped up a little bit today, but I don't think anyone's suspecting that it's going to hold very strongly through the weekend.
An $80 million budget.
Yeah, off an $80 million budget. And just for perspective on that, that means that potentially we could see this film domestically be making half or near half of what Morbius did in its opening weekend. And remember, Morbius had a traditional release schedule, I believe, and this film has had a 6-day release. So, if it wasn't a traditional release for Morbius, then it was at least, this film has 2 days on it. So the fact that in 6 days, the film's going to make maybe half, a little more than half of what Morbius made in 4 days, roughly. I mean, that just gives you an idea. And Morbius made, 130, 140-ish worldwide. So if the trends continue domestically and if it matches internationally as well, then you're going to see this film make half, roughly, of what Morbius made, which means under 100 million worldwide. Now, it's still a little too early to tell. We don't have the international numbers fully in yet. But once we do, we'll be able to make some projections. It's not looking good. And you know what? This film deserves to be failing as much as it is because it's a terrible movie. I'm very thankful for Perry Chan, being able to allow me to see the film because I just... Honestly, when I was sitting through it, it was putting me to sleep. It was so bad. But also at the same time, I was just so immersed in just how stupid and terrible it was. I mean, CPR was used so much throughout the movie. I mean, it was used to such a degree that it was almost like they didn't even know what CPR was. Like she would literally just show up and just start doing chest compressions, having not checked the breathing of the person that she's just gone up to. Like she's supposed to be this professional, medic and everything. And all of a sudden she's just, doing chest compressions every single time. And it's the entire theme of the movie. Exactly right, Culture. You mentioned the background, right? Because it's true. Like, it literally happens all the time. And all of it's being done. Anyone will tell you who defends the film, well, it's all to build up for the very end where it becomes completely relevant. It's like, yes, but you're just completely missing everything about it. But everything about this movie is garbage. Everything you've heard about this film is, again, it's almost an understatement of how bad it is. And the one thing I do push back on is people saying the film's not woke because, I'm sorry, it's in the very DNA of the film because the whole premise of the film is it's all about this group of women. The only bad guy in the film is this guy. And everything that's said, like at one point, one of the characters says, oh, I don't have a dad in my life. I don't have, like, all of them don't have their dads in their life. And one of them, who's the Hispanic character, says, oh, because mine got deported. So it's like, no, there's absolutely political stuff in this movie, And so I think that it's just, it's awful.
Sydney Sweeney does need chest compressions, if you ask me.
By the way, that's the other problem. None of the ladies look like ladies. These are 20-something, mid-20s women in this movie. And they made them into high school girls,
boys,
and films should have a little bit of titillation, especially in a superhero film. This one has nada. There is no sexiness at all anywhere. Even the dude, they made what's his name, Ezekiel Sims, the character, right? The actor is not this dad bod having potbelly dude rocking a costume that's barefooted. I mean, they had to have padded the guy out because he's a fit guy. So I'm looking at all these things and I'm going, they removed everything. There is zero eye candy in this. And again, a big blockbuster film, eye candy. Sorry. Anyway.
Well, throwing this to George, Amy Pascal, former head of Sony Studios, who was a big feminist. She's the one who commissioned the 2016 Ghostbusters thing.
There'll be adjuncts to it.
And she's been the producer of all the Spider-Man stuff, right? Like she somehow wormed her way in there with Avi Arad and stuff like that. And they're at this point, because Sony has the rights to all the Spider-Man characters from the deal that they made before the MCU was even a thing. They keep trying to utilize them so they can extend their license and try to make their own thing outside of Marvel. And I think a lot of people are kind of the mindset that like Sony is just a pretender to the throne. They should just give the rights back to Marvel and let Marvel ruin it as opposed to ruining it themselves. What's your take on Madam Web and Sony's overall strategy for basically doing their own MCU?
I think Sony originally had a good strategy, but they've shown in the last two films that they don't know how to pour piss out of a boot. I don't know if that's because of Pascal, but Madam Web, I told you I stayed 30 minutes and left. I couldn't. I was like, I'm not reviewing this. I'm like, this is not worth my time. I wanted a refund. The reality is a woke film. Everything about it, from talking about plastics in the ocean to having three girls made up to look like three teenage boys to the whole changing, with great power comes great responsibility, into being something about personal responsibility. And I'm like, and having a director, remember this director, it's her one film. This is her credit. She did a pilot for HBO's Game of Thrones called Blood Moon, which was so good, it's at the bottom of the ocean. No one has ever seen it. I mean, so they're putting people in, but it's the same crap that Marvel has gotten into. If this was 6 years ago, I'd say, damn, they should hand it back over to Marvel, but Marvel's not going to do anything good with it either. And it reminded me so much of Disney Plus's She-Hulk, Attorney at Law. I mean, it was pretty much the same level of crap. It just is. There's nothing. It's like, how do you say it? It's crap with trash with garbage. It just wasn't worth it. I called up Gary and I was like, before I'm going, I said, what do you think of this? He starts laughing and he's like, it's just trash, dude. It's just trash, but it's hilarious trash. Meaning, like, it's so bad you can't cry, but you just like, wow. That's why I said AI and the technologies from Sora, they're going to help us to make better movies for people who know how to write, for people who know how to add their creative touch, put their passion, put their spirit in. And it's going to swamp. I think we're starting to hit we're at the cusp of a golden age for independent creators. I think we are. And I also think that AI didn't write this. I think ChatGPT could do better. Wow.
Well, I'm just glad that it's failing, because this is just another signal to be sent to Hollywood. Just one more.
And I believe the category is moist garbage. That's what you're looking for, George. Moist garbage.
Moist garbage. That's a good one. I like that. But ChatGPT would do better. There's no way. And what Culture said, there's no titillation, no nipple, there's nothing. It's like, okay, where are you pulling people in? Bad story, wretched director, a writer's room that 4 people, one has no credits to her name. So a committee of box wine drinking beta males and Hannah Montana pajama babies. It's like, what the hell is this show?
What I got from Culture was that the movie needs to be more titillating.
Yeah, right. Titillating. I like to just.
I like that word.
Real quick, guys, we have a super chat from Kelchi Oki for $2. Just curious how long the girls are in their super suits.
Well, did you see the trailer?
That's about it.
That's
about a minute's worth.
Yeah. I was so offended. Oh, and then when you hear Sydney Sweeney talk about it in a background interview, she says that she had to force them into letting her hang upside down from the ceiling in her costume to make it more like a superhero film. She was actually thinking she was going to be in a superhero film. Oh, was she wrong?
Well, that was another thing I guess some of the people were implying, is that they were tricked into thinking they were going to be a part of the MCU. Sorry, go ahead, Dart.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
no, I was just gonna say I think they look pretty good at the premiere with their web dresses.
That is the only time they looked good.
That got more attention than the movie.
Right.
Yeah,
what bothers me is,
what does that say?
Then Zendaya came on the scene and everybody's like, what about that other thing? I don't remember. What was that? What?
Talking about Zendaya, that does bother me. I read a report just real quick that supposedly, and I loved the first Dune. I love the original from Lynch, and then I loved what Villeneuve did. But I heard that he's changed the entire Dune tune to be all focused on her. Anyway, so I think this year we're going to have another. I said I hope, but I hope that Culture said this is the worst movie of the year. I'm like, wait a minute, we still have Craven.
Well, yeah, Craven's in the pipeline. But I think what was interesting to me is that Dakota Johnson came out and basically said that the script that she signed on to do was not the script that ended up being made. And I think that a lot of these people got roped into this movie based off of the strength of an original script that got completely obliterated throughout the course of production. So just wanted to point that out. Real quick, guys, I want to thank everyone for being here today. We had a lot to talk about, and we talked about it. So let's go around the panel and get some final thoughts. Odin, any final thoughts? And where can people find more of you?
Yeah, the only saving grace that this film has is that it only cost them $80 million, but it's still going to be a massive financial loss for them. And that's why I say, like, even though this film might be like the worst film of the year, it won't be. I don't think it's going to be the biggest box office loss of the year, because there's some bigger budgeted films yet to come out that I think are probably going to end up losing a little bit more. But you can find me over at OMB Reviews on YouTube, Odyssey, Rumble, also, of course, over on Twitter. Please also make sure to vote for the 6th Annual Raven Awards, our Oscars boycott show. The ballot is still live, and I've been posting it on all the different socials, so go check that out, and check me out over on criticalist.com as well. Great site.
Awesome stuff. Tom, any final thoughts, and where can people find more of you?
Yeah, you can find me at Midnight's Edge After Dark, and all those fine places out there on the YouTubes. And I'll be heading over to Mephisto's to talk a little Monty Python and the meaning of life.
Oh, wow. Sounds fun.
Good stuff. All right, George, thank you for being here today. This was your flagship appearance on the Salty Saturday podcast. Hopefully you will come back. Do you have any final thoughts, and where can people find more of you?
I'm just thank you for having me on. It was a lot of fun to get to hang out with old friends and new ones. Final thoughts: keep voting with your hearts and wallets, and we'll break Hollywood until they change. But you can find me on YouTube at George the Giant Slayer, Twitter, Instagram, the same thing. It's either George the Giant Slayer or George Mola. Chat's been amazing. I hope you all have a wonderful weekend. And tomorrow is my 7th live stream at 2 p.m. Central,
Nice.
8 p.m. UK.
Good stuff. And keep in mind, everyone, that the links to everyone's channels is in the description if you want to check them out. Culture Casino, thank you so much for filling in today. I know it was a last minute thing, but you are always welcome on the show. Any final thoughts, and where can people find more of you?
I had a lot of fun. Don't go see Madam Web. You can find that's my final thoughts. It's my one-word review. Don't. And then I'm sticking with my $20 million prediction. 24 million now, I think, is probably fair. But anyway, back to it. Check me out on YouTube and Rumble and Odyssey and Minds and Getter and everywhere else, and Twitter. And apparently I was followed by fake Elon Musk today. So
nice.
me. Yeah,
very good.
That's a good one.
Very
That's a good one. Yeah.
All right, Matt Vader, any final thoughts?
Final thoughts. Directed to Hollywood Studios. Quit fuggling up hot chicks. We're really getting sick and tired of that. Hot chicks are hot. We like to look at them, and we will give you money if you do that. And also, how about a little Spider-Man in your Spider-Man movies? That would be that would be really good too, right? So, how can you have a Spider-Verse without the Spider-Man in the Spider-Verse?
They did, but they didn't.
I don't
characters that essentially were Spider-Men, but
yeah. So, that's all I got. Coming up Tuesday, 1:00. We got a 2-hour live stream plus a member stream afterward, I believe, this week. And we're putting that show together. I can't tell you what we're talking about yet. So,
real quick, I want to give a big shout out to Jillian N., Eric Winberg, George the Giant Slayer, Major Chai Chai. Thank you all so much for gifting memberships and joining the Salty Nerd memberships. I really appreciate you guys. Also want to give a big shout out to the Joker's Voice, Mexican Iron Man, Everything Woke About, aka Jonas, Lover of Green, the Sundowners Club, Criticless, and Kilchi Oki. Thank you guys so much for donating to the podcast, or to the stream, I should say. We do this because we're trying to build a business, and you guys make it so much easier when you show your love through donations and stuff like that. But for all of you who became members, got gifted memberships, stuff like that, be sure to check out our members only playlist on the channel. We got tons of member content in there, and Tuesday we're going to be doing our member stream, so be sure to check in for that. And also, let us know what type of member content you want, and consider, if you like our stuff, becoming a regular subscriber as opposed to just mooching off the gifted memberships that these generous people give you. But until next Saturday, we hope you all have a good week. But tune in, same salty time, same salty channel every Saturday for Salty Saturdays. Stay salty, my friends.